The Rangers found three things after Sarah Martin vanished in 1987. Her camera, her journal, and a photo of her unborn son at age 40 taken 15 years before he was born. In 2019, her son, Gripper, returned to the lake for his first National Geographic assignment, and he wrote down his terrifying account before he disappeared. This is his story. The photo that got me my first National Geographic assignment captured something impossible. My mother's final shot, taken 37 years before I was even born. And when I lowered my camera at Lake Henderson, the black water had turned to glass, reflecting this pristine trailer floating where nothing should float. My hands trembled just like Mom's had in her last photo. And I knew because I'd studied every single frame she took before she vanished. Something moved behind those trailer windows, pressing pale hands that left frost on the glass. And the locals scattered, abandoning steaming coffee cups on benches. All except one, a ranger whose weathered uniform matched the one in my mom's final shot. "You hold that camera just like Sarah did," he said, and his eyes were fixed on the water. "She always said this lake kept secrets, but now it's keeping her." But his next words hit harder than even my ex's goodbye last month. "It's been waiting for you." I forced a laugh. I told myself that he was just another local who'd recognized my byline. He'd done some research. You know, small towns, they're full of people who love other people's tragedies. But as the sun set over Lake Henderson, I couldn't shake how this water had turned to black glass, reflecting stars that hadn't even risen yet. Sunset turned Lake Henderson into this black glass, and the crowds had fled, leaving me alone with something metallic in the reeds, a taunt that I could not ignore. Mom's last photo had shown this same glint. The same reeds. It was the exact same angle. My hands shook as I reached into the mud. Not a camera, a notebook. Its pages were swollen with lake water, and something cold just wrapped around my wrist. The fingers were all wrong. They were too long. They were too cold. It was like touching the space between the stars, and I thrashed against the lake's grip until it released me, leaving these perfect fingerprints in black water on my skin. Those were just like the ones on Mom's arm in her final frame. The notebook fell open. It was Mom's handwriting. It was spiraled across the pages, the dates repeating: 1951, 1987, 2019. Each entry ending in one single word that she'd traced until the pen bled red. Soon, and the last page bore yesterday's date. Mom's coffee, I remember, sat untouched that morning, steam still rising when they found her camera. The cup's been in every photo I've ever taken since: birthday parties, graduations, my first National Geographic badge. It's always empty, it's always cold. The story is in the light, baby. Those were her last words. And I'd spent years thinking that she meant photography, chasing Pulitzers with her old cameras. But watching these shadows slither across Lake Henderson now, I finally understood. She'd left a map in every single sunset photo she staged here, in every birthday candle she made me light just so, in every star she taught me to wish on. This lake was now offering me answers, and just like it had offered them to her, the water turned this black as developing fluid, and I realized why Mom's coffee went cold. Some answers, they hunt right back. They'd been hunting me through her viewfinder all along. The next photo in my camera showed what I couldn't even see yet. It was a trailer's reflection, perfect in the black water, and moving closer with each frame. That's when Lake Henderson went dead. Not quiet, dead. No ripples, no wind, no insect sounds. Nature holding its breath, waiting for me to take that next shot. This water turned that black glass, reflecting stars that wouldn't even rise for hours. That July air froze in my lungs. My breath were clouds moving against the wind. Click, click. My shudder echoed like Mom's last heartbeat. This rhythm, I'd memorized it from her final roll of film. But I kept on shooting. I was lying to myself about algae blooms and National Geographic headlines. Mom's lies. Now, mine. The image is blurred on my screen until one just stopped my heart. It was a vintage Airstream floating on impossible black water, and when I looked up, the lake was entirely empty. But my camera had caught it, just like whatever lived here had caught Mom. The surface rippled once, like something dropping into forever. My phone lit up suddenly with one bar. Its screen was fighting the darkness. A message from 3 days ago. Lake Henderson activity matches 1987 pattern, just like your mother's notes predicted. Headline suddenly scrolled past. It was like a timeline of terror. Local photographer vanishes at Henderson, July 1987. Search called off. Lake claims third victim. Pattern continues. What's taking our photographers? And then newer posts from the Cove's next door group. It's happening again. Trailer on black water, just like Sarah in 87. Keep your kids away from sunset shots. Their photos aligned with mathematical precision. 51, 87, today. Same angle, same black water, same impossible trailer in each generation's final frame before they vanished. And Mom must have known. Every sunset photo she made me take, every lesson about the light telling stories, she'd been teaching me to see it, to catch whatever the lake wanted caught. And the question suddenly wasn't why she disappeared, it was why she trained me to follow. The old ranger's words froze in my throat. It's been waiting for you. Suddenly the temperature plummeted so fast that my phone screen cracked. These black lines were spreading like lake water, and my breath came out all wrong. They weren't clouds anymore, they were shadows that moved against the wind. Beyond the shore, the world had gone photo-negative dark. I wasn't alone in this darkness. Something was developing. My hands moved through photographer's muscle memory, adjusting settings, checking exposure, Mom's old habits, and then movement caught my lens. A figure standing knee-deep in impossible water, not reflecting stars now, but absorbing them. The figure's head turned too far, the joints were all wrong, the skin was photo paper white. Click, gone. I punched through the photos. Each frame was darker than the last one. Not amateur darkness, something deeper. It was like the space between the stars had leaked into my sensor. And then one frame stopped my breath. A hand reaching from black water, the fingers too long, the skin too pale, not beckoning me. Editing, erasing the stars above it one by one. And the same hand that had grabbed my wrist was wearing Mom's wedding ring. It was the one that they never found. This lake was not just taking photographers, it was taking their entire light. My camera screen cracked, black lines spreading on it like water across Mom's ring. The next frame showed me what was rising behind me, wearing her face like a darkroom negative, and the camera slipped from my hands as Mom's negative face turned toward me. Her darkroom smile spreading too wide. I wanted to run, but my feet rooted me to this shore like her tripod legs always had. The journal pulsed suddenly in my hands. Its pages were still lake wet, not just Mom's handwriting now. The ink, it was moving. It was forming new words in real time, and the same way that her ghost hand had edited stars from the sky. Each page whispered what my ex used to say. You'll never be the photographer that she was, but she'd never seen what my camera had just caught. What this lake was letting me catch. Dawn. It came wrong. It was too fast. It was like someone had overexposed the sky, and I stumbled to the town library. I was clutching Mom's journal like a lifeline. The microfiche machine hummed under my trembling fingers. Headlines were blurring past. Sarah Martin vanishes. Lake Henderson claims another. Search called off. Only camera found. Pattern continues. What's taking our photographers? The screen suddenly sparked, crackling with impossible heat. Mom's missing person photo twisted alive. Her smile was spreading like developing fluid. Lake water poured onto the screen's corners, burning perfect circles into my skin. And the same circles from her final photo. The same pattern now forming on every surface in this library. The walls, the books, the camera screen. The lake was not done developing us. The burns on my hands formed dates, like camera timestamps. 1951, 1987, 2019. Each one was matching a missing photographer's final shot. Each one was showing that same impossible trailer. This pattern developed in my mind like a negative. We weren't random victims. We were the bait. We were drawn back generation by generation. And this lake had been curating its collection all along. Dad's hidden photo album suddenly flashed behind my eyes. Mom cradling infant me, her dimpled smile already fading at the edges. She hadn't abandoned us. She'd been the first frame in a 1987 cycle, and I was developing into the last. Water dripped from the microfiche screen, forming a new date on my skin. Tomorrow's sunrise. The library walls suddenly rippled like disturbed water. In each window's reflection, it was Mom's negative face smiling wider, beckoning me closer. And she was showing me something in the burning patterns. It was coordinates in the lake surface. It was written in starlight and shadow. It was a map to that trailer that had stolen her. It was waiting for me. Mom's negative face rippled in every window as I stumbled from that library, and the date on my burns counted down in minutes now. You've got her eyes. An old man suddenly blocked my path. His own eyes were reflecting starlight that hadn't even risen yet. This town here, it takes things, he said, but that lake keeps them. It develops them into something else. The parking lot stretched behind this man like black water, and right there, impossible but pristine, sat that Airstream trailer. Its windows reflected me, but it was all wrong. It was too pale, it was too stretched, and my fingers left darkroom stains on my camera as I raised it. Click. The trailer vanished between one heartbeat and the next. But my camera screen, it showed the truth that it had not disappeared. It had developed into something else. It was something wearing my mom's face, walking toward me with tomorrow's sunrise in its eyes. The lake was ready to print its final photograph. I raced back to Henderson at sunset, but no recollection of where the hours were lost in the library. My camera bag was heavy with my gear. I had no sleep now for 48 hours, but you know my hands were steady. They were like Mom's always were before a big shot. And then my watch crystal cracked, leaking something. It was too dark to be water. Each drop showed a different face. Photographers through the decades. Mouths stretched in silent screams. It was their final frames before the lake took them. I ringed the whole shore with cameras. There were tripods planted like crosses, and the locals had learned to look away, but I couldn't. Okay, I could not anymore. I had to capture what Mom died trying to warn us about. Night fell wrong. It was too fast. It was like a shutter closing. It was like the air turned thick as fixer fluid, making each breath a battle. Shadows flowed across the ground like developer in the tray, but these weren't developing images. They were erasing the world piece by piece. And my cameras died one by one, the screens turning black water dark, but not before each caught the same thing, that pristine trailer floating closer with each frame, and behind its windows, faces pressed against glass. It was Ma. It was the missing photographers. It was me. The last camera kept clicking. The shutter was moving entirely on its own. Each frame showed something that my eyes couldn't see. It was the trailer growing closer. Mom's face clearer, her hands leaving the frost trails on the glass, not beckoning, warning. When that final screen died, I felt it. It was this wrong stillness. It was like time developing backwards. It was like the forest behind me had gone photo-negative dark. No road, no town, no escape. Just the trailer now. Impossibly pristine on black water, and my reflection in its windows, already inside. Mom's camera strap tightened around my neck like cold fingers. The lake wasn't just collecting photographers, it was printing its own story. Was I the final frame? The trailer door opened like a lens cap popping off, darkness developing into light. Chemical smell hit me first. Developer, stop bath, fixer, the dark room scents Mom used to wear like perfume. But wrong, it was metallic, it was alive. My feet moved without me. Drawn by something stronger than fear. Each step into that silver light turned the world more negative. Shadows were becoming highlights. Reality was inverting like an image in the tank. The walls of the trailer, they breathed photographs. Every surface was plastered with these lake shots spanning decades. Each one was moving like motion pictures in reverse. Mom's pristine camera, it watched from a shelf next to film marked for my son in her perfect darkroom script. And as I reached for it, something dripped on my hand. It wasn't water, it wasn't a chemical, it was something that developed memories instead of images. And I looked up into this album of horror. Faces frozen mid-scream on the ceiling. Their eyes were weeping, something too dark to be tears, too dark to be blood. But Mom's photo hung center. Her eyes were sharp with purpose, her message in red. The truth will set us free. The door sealed like a darkroom light trap, and every single photograph began to bleed. Dark water was rising. It rose to my knees, and carrying fragments of other photographers' final moments. But Mom's camera felt warm in my hands. It was alive with purpose. And inside, her last undeveloped role waited. It was not a victim's last shots. It was a hunter's careful documentation. Suddenly, this rising water turned clear as developing fluid. It was showing me what I refused to see. Every missing photographer had come here deliberately. Each vanished lens had captured a piece of the lake's hunger. Mom hadn't been taken. She'd been leading me here. She'd been teaching me to see through her viewfinder. And her note suddenly floated up through this water, words bleeding into truth. My sweet boy, I knew you'd follow the trail. The lake takes those who speak its secrets, but it can't stop the truth if we leave it in images. Your camera was always your strength, just like mine. Now use it. The water suddenly reached my chest, but my hand stayed steady. Mom hadn't run from this place, she'd faced it, with her shutter wide open, and now it was my turn to expose what this lake had hidden from us. The water turned to pure developer now, but I just kept on shooting. Click, click, click. Each frame was capturing what the lake never wanted to be seen. They were faces rising from this black water, and they were reaching with two long fingers, wearing pieces of other photographers' faces. The evidence was already uploading to National Geographic servers, frame by frame. Mom's story would finally develop into truth. My laptop screen flickers like disturbed water as I type this. The truth is developing though, even as this lake tries to stop it. Mom taught me that a real photographer doesn't just capture beauty. We expose what darkness wants to keep hidden. We burn light into secrets. Now the developer reaches my chin, but my hands are steady as Mom's always were. Her camera clicks one last time, not in my hands, but somewhere in the dark behind me. I'm not turning around. I know what's taking my picture now. Just remember this. The most dangerous photograph isn't the one that you take. It's the one that's being taken of you by something that knows how to wait in this dark, watching through every lens until you're ready to see it. The lake may take me right now, but it can't erase what we've exposed. Some images burn too deep to... In spring 2024, an unprecedented storm system hit Lake Henderson. This flooding, it was so severe that it altered the lake shoreline, and it exposed a waterproof hard drive wedged between rocks. Park rangers discovered this contained a single corrupted file. Gripper Martin's final message, autosaved to his cloud storage moments before the trailer disappeared. 3 days later, National Geographic server logs showed massive data uploads from Gripper's account, but every file was corrupted beyond recovery. Only fragments of them remained, mostly just timestamps matching his mother's disappearance in 1987. The next day, a fire of unknown origin destroyed National Geographic's physical archives, including all film received from Lake Henderson. Security footage showed only static during the blaze, though employees reported seeing flashes like camera strobes in the smoke, and the lake's surface has changed since that storm. Locals say that it reflects things that aren't there. That pristine trailer, and now 2 figures with cameras. Even tourist photos show impossible images in the water, but only for an instant before their phones malfunction. When the wind is right, you can hear it. The soft click of shutters in the dark. The lake keeps its photographers now, but sometimes, between lightning flashes during storms, their images develop in the sky for just a moment. A mother and son, 37 years apart, forever capturing what the lake doesn't want seen. Park rangers still find cameras washed up after storms. The film inside remains pristine, but every attempt to develop it results in the same image. Black water, drawing closer with each frame. But something has always puzzled me. Have you ever captured something in your lens that wasn't there when you took the photo? You know, something that only developed later on, watching you through your own camera maybe? Next time that you're near still water at sunset, you look closely at your reflection. But remember, sometimes the most dangerous photograph in the world isn't the one that you were taking. It's the one being taken of you. Share your unexplainable photos in the comments, but whatever you do, don't try to develop them. And for more scary horror stories, please subscribe.